Yeah, I said it. Realism doesn't matter. This video will be a little more spicy than usual. A little more bippity-boppity, if you will. Okay, that made no sense. But anyways, the last video I made was regarding Omniraptor, and I could tell right away that I stepped into the deep end without knowing it. All I had to say was that Omniraptor is a rip-off of Jurassic Park, and that Utahraptor wouldn't be different enough to warrant being added, despite being more realistic, because it wouldn't change gameplay at all, and would be a redundant addition, as well as preventing Omniraptor from possibly becoming more monstrous and cool instead of being out of place with the rest of the roster, which has a clear extravagant semi-realism thing going, which works wonderfully in my opinion. It's diverse, unique, with its own feel and intrigue, while pleasing people that like realistic dinosaurs, and those who like a little more hot sauce in their chili. The issue of realism is not simply a the aisle problem, it's a dinosaur community problem, and is one so intense that it can cause people to see a video going against realism and assume I'm another nerd that wants everything to look like a cute bird, and I don't blame them. Everyone has a side, and no one will believe the truth of the matter. People refuse to accept that something can be cool if it's realistic, or cool if it's not. In the dinosaur game genre specifically, people are head over heels defending their side of the issue, and I'm here to put an end to the matter once and for all with the most unsatisfying conclusion of all time. It just doesn't matter at all. Immersion is a very real thing, and it's an important thing. Immersion is the ability to lure someone into a sense of understanding of a world you've created, so much so that they can believe it exists and feel transferred away from the real world and into that creation. Immersion is awesome and very tricky to do correctly. The main reason for this is because the dinosaur genre believes immersion and realism are the same thing. Realism is real life stuff, and immersion is fake real life stuff. It's a little confusing, but the gist is that you can get immersion without realism if the imaginary stuff feels realistic. You can't make a realistic dinosaur game set 65 million years ago in the Hell Creek Formation with a monstrously shrink-wrapped and badassified T-Rex. It would break the expectation of the player, and therefore break immersion. But if you have a game set in modern times with cool genetic experimentation, absolutely have a badassified T-Rex. A realistic one would look out of place and once again break immersion. All that matters is that the designs match the world building, and that those designs remain consistent across every playable, which is the reason I made an Omniraptor video in the first place, because I felt like they weren't consistent. Realism does not impact gameplay whatsoever. If anything, it can make it worse. If you have a game that obsesses over realism, you immediately remove cool abilities like roaring, venom, mimicry, all in the name of science. The thing is, most people don't give a rip if they're having a good time. Games like Ark didn't become massive hits because they fought tooth and nail for realism. They did whatever the hell they wanted in an incredibly cryptic and nonsensical world, and it was entertaining as hell. Until they scammed everyone, but you know, it is what it is. Gameplay trumps all, because entertaining players will always be more effective if you give them interesting things to do. And once again, this won't ruin immersion if whatever is happening makes sense within the world you've built. This is where games like Path of Titans have kind of failed. It's impossible to please the realism enjoyers they've pandered to by adding made-up abilities to please combat enjoyers. No one wins, and in order to please everyone, you need to start by asking who your game is for. Saurian, bless its heart, had a clear goal in mind: realism. And only those who enjoy realism through and through were excited for the game, and greatly enjoyed the humble beginnings it had. It was probably the only wholesome dinosaur game community ever, because it avoided the realism war right off the bat. Well, sort of. And that brings me to... No matter what is done, what precautions are taken, or what experts you hire, realism is not achievable in this genre. We will never see a living, breathing dinosaur from millions of years ago, and despite our best efforts, we are still learning and unlearning theories on a daily basis. Everything we know about these animals has drastically changed from even 5 years ago, and it will continue to change at an even faster rate than before with the exponential growth of technology. If your game wants realism, it will quickly become outdated, even with the best intentions. And unless you constantly change that, it will be hard to keep any form of immersion in your realistic game, while still sacrificing some gameplay elements. Feathers look like trash in dinosaur games, or in most games, and indie developers don't have the massive budgets required to make them fully animated and interesting, I'm pretty sure. but if you're an animator or developer, feel free to school me in the comments. Point is, realistic dinosaurs are hard to make and require a lot of research, planning, resources, and skill to create and sustain. Having a timeless and stylized design is much easier to do. Okay, look, no one wants these games to crash and burn, and no one really hates anyone for wanting their dinosaurs to look a certain way. The internet is a magical place where everyone thinks they're a genius, and no one actually is. That goes for me too. I'm just a YouTuber trying to make videos. We're all just passionate about these lizards, and we want our dinosaur games to reflect that passion. So let's not forget that we all want the same thing at the end of the day, and developers are responding to that need. So I strive for you to look into which games are interested in what you like best, instead of trying to change games that may see things differently. I hope you got something out of this one, because thinking in depth about the subject definitely opened my eyes to some of the baseless complaints I've made. Make sure to get a good sleep tonight, bro.